of being featured on an article. You have better success rate of being featured somewhere. And so it all comes down to how you pitch your story so that it positions you to be the expert in the field that you declare that you are in. So once you have that, your niche is really coming down to how do you position yourself within that niche. And so today we're going to talk about the 3 mistakes of how you're not positioning yourself in that niche, even though you have one. Okay. All right. So because of the fact that I have received so many pitches from everywhere, and I actually invited guests because they had a great pitch. Their great pitch involves with a great storytelling. Okay, I'll give you actually an example of that. And Yvonne was actually just popping in. She would be a great example of how a great pitch is being done and how people are so much willing to offer you a platform, a stage, if you did it right, if you did it the right way. Okay, all right. So over the past couple of years, I have receive pitches from everywhere, and I have also done a lot of pitches myself. So I pitched to places like local gym. When I first started, I pitched to local gym. I wanted to do a workshop. I wanted to have these leadership presentation for them, and I actually did one at a local gym because the owner, I happened to know the owner, and we made a mutual benefit of me presenting to their trainer, and they allow me to have a little space inside the gym to do my energy leadership presentation. So I have pitched myself to local gym, restaurants, chamber of commerce, multiple events, podcasts, and women's group. You name it, I've done it. I've been there. I know I'm like constantly pitching to everybody. Right? I'm always pitching about my story. I'm always inviting myself to other podcasts who share the same niche or have the same similar audience. All right. So first of all, why do you need to pitch? Right? Why not just post something and then isn't that marketing what marketing is all about? Just posting and becoming aware. So if you're still stuck in that being marketing is about being aware, then you're like really back in the old day. It's no longer working, right? Just posting doesn't get you anywhere, and you probably know that because you're in this group. And so you're probably experiencing the fact that no matter how many posts that you share, how many educational posts that you send out there, it's not converting your follower into paying client. So a lot of time, depending on the story that you tell, whether it is to your prospects who's listening right to you right now, in front of that camera or behind that camera or behind the post, it all comes down to how you pitch them. All right. So the reason why you pitch is because you have a business. Right? You have something to offer. You want to make an impact. You want to change lives in people's lives. Then you got to position yourself in the place where you are available to work with people. And I don't know what you want to call that activity, but to me, that is like pitch, right? You have something to offer, and there it is. And I'm just going to present it to you. What do you call that? What do you call that behavior? That's pitch, pitch or sell or I don't know, marketing, or just tell your story. I like to call it tell your story. So a perfect pitch is when you hit the right note. And we all know about singing, right? When you go and sing, you probably can't sing, and I can't sing either. I used to sing in elementary school. I love to sing. And every time I sing, I can hit the notes pretty well. I hit the notes, hit the right notes, so I create melody. But when you don't have a pitch, or when your pitch is not right, it's not done right, then you're kind of off key a little bit, right? You all hear songs that's kind of off key, or you hear people singing that's kind of off key. And so having a perfect pitch is, for your business, is just like that. Are you hitting the right note to the right audience? If your audience is someone who's listening to hip hop, they're probably not going to resonate with a song that's like, I don't know, jazz. But if you have an audience who's love rock and roll music, and you come in here and you talk about rock and roll music, that's going to sit with them. That's going to resonate with them. And that's how you land in a rock and roll band, because you connect the two dots between what is it that they're looking for versus what is it that you are offering. So when you think about like offering your coaching business or your coaching service or any type of product or services that you're doing, maybe it's a digital course that you're offering, you have to hit the right notes so that it's a perfect match between your who you're selling it to versus who you what is it that you're talking about. So think of it as like singing in melody and music, right? You want to hit the perfect note. So how do you actually hit the perfect note? What I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you the 3 do nots so that you have more idea of what you can do to make it a perfect fit. And this is from years of experience where I get pitched by other guests who want to be on podcasts, and also myself wanting to be a guest on someone else's podcast. So it's through all these personal experiences where, oh, that pitch didn't work well, oh, that pitch didn't work. So here are the 3 bad pitches. Okay. The first bad pitch is the fact that you have not done the research and you are not clear in terms of what people want to achieve. So I actually have a perfect story. Couple of, I think it was last year. Last year, in my inbox, an email popped into my inbox, and it was from one of the person who wrote blog. He's a blog copywriter. He's a blogger, and all he does is he go around and pitching to all these coaches, and he write blogs for coaches. And so he popped into my inbox and he offered me that he wanted to write blog posts for me. Great, right? Why would you want to give that to that cumbersome, that stressful moment of writing blog and just give it to someone else who's like really good and who actually enjoy doing it? Couple of things, right? And this is exactly what I have replied to my email to him. And he's a fresh new starter blogger, and so it doesn't feel right to not talk about this with him because he has so much potential. I actually went to his website, I went to his blog to read some of the stuff that he writes, and he's a great writer. So there's no doubt that he's gonna shine. He's gonna be doing a great job just by writing blog for other people, other coaches. But then what was going on was that he was not doing the research right? So when you are pitching to a blog podcast host or when you are pitching to a blogger, what you want to do is research. What does that person do? And what is the podcast about? And who are the audience? Right? So if you don't even bother to check out my previous article and how I word things and who my target audience is, and you don't even bother to go to my work with me page and look at like who am I working with, and in your pitch letter, you fail to mention that these are the things that I noticed, that these are some of the things that you do, and this is why I think that I would be a great fit. Right? So if you don't even take that initial step to research the person that you're pitching to, or perhaps it's the podcast that you're pitching to, or you're not even asking the question of who is in the audience that I will be speaking to. And I am so proud of like Helen Brenner and yesterday, like just a couple of days ago, because she also has a podcast. It's called Getting Past Survivor. And she's been really working hard on producing a lot of like podcast episodes. And she and I were talking, and because I have a live event that's coming up in September, the last week of September, and I would like her to be on the virtual summit, the virtual live event. And then she was like, the first questions that she asked me was, who am I speaking to? Right? And so that is a very important piece of information if you're considering to be a podcast guest for someone else. Who is the audience that you're going to be speaking to? You don't want to just be on every podcast. You want to make sure that your podcast has a good fit with the niche. Right? I know you can speak to different topic, 10,000 topic, 100,000 topic. I know you can speak in all aspects of people's life, but if it's not going to get you anywhere in terms of your coaching business, You're just going around and being a podcast guest for a lot of podcasts, and it's not going to lead you to an actual paying client, right? So that's a really bad pitch. So if you're going to pitch me about writing a blog on my website, then the very least that you should be doing is do some research about the work I do, right? You want to target my audience to make sure that whatever that you're pitching to me actually is a good fit. So how do you do the research? There's a lot of Google is your best friend, right? You Google that person, you Google what the work that they do, you Google their podcast, you Google their blog, and it's going to pull up all these information and article that's going to give you some data to talk about specifically what does that person do and how does your work tie into what they do. Okay, so number one mistake is people are not doing any research, and this is also true when you receive those DM, right, in the private message. People just pitch you and say, hey, I have this great program. I think you'll be a perfect fit. Do you even know what I do? If you're going to pitch me about visibility, do you even know what I do? Right? So taking that initial step of researching that person before you send your offer to them, that is the biggest common mistake I see. All right. So are you doing the research? You have to do the research. Okay. Do the research, understand that person, understanding their audience is going to get you for a better pitch, hitting the right note. Okay. Number two, the second big mistake that I see people making is the fact that a lot of time people think that visibility is about just opening yourself to all the possibility, right? So you see this a lot in like Facebook and in groups where I'm looking for a life coach, and what does everybody do? We all jump on that single post because they're looking for a life coach, right? But here's what happened. You can offer your service. Let's say you declare your niche and you're going to be a mindset coach, and someone is looking for a mindset coach. Again, it goes back to that first step of not doing enough research, right? Exactly. What about the mindset? What are they trying to accomplish? What are they looking for? And does it even fit to what you're resonating with? Does it even fit to what you're trying to do in your coaching business? If you have a niche, chances are it's a little more specify, it's more narrowed down, it's a little more specific in terms of how you're helping people within that mindset umbrella, right? So if you're going to see like people asking for career coach and you're going to jump on it without asking like who is this person and what are the background, what are some of the back end information that would be important to determine whether or not this is a good fit for you, and you just jump on it, that's not visibility. That's not visibility. And you're going to get so many, so you're going to get a lot of discovery booking, but it's like, it's sheer number, right? You're going to speak to 1,000 people and maybe you'll get like 10 yeses. But the true visibility is about positioning your expertise in that field so that you are very consciously choosing to pitch to only those that are in the best fit. Okay. When you do that, what's going to happen is, let's say you pitch to 100 places, you're going to get 100 yeses, right? You see, because it's very intentional. You actually stand back and you're not putting yourself out there just for the sheer number. And when you do that, you also lose your authority, because what makes you different than person B or person A? What makes you different? What makes you stand out? You don't anymore, right? So you lose that authoritative established that you have worked so hard by narrowing down your niche. So visibility is not about the number, it's about the intention behind what is it that you do with the posting that you do, with the blog post that you write, with the video that you create. I don't just go around and talking about business. I talk about visibility. I talk about storytelling, right? I don't just go around and talk about I'm going to help you to, I don't know, to create a legal document. No, that's not my niche. My niche is storytelling. So I'm going to tell you everything about storytelling. Right. So, and when people ask about, do I have a business coach who can help me, I don't know, making $20,000. I want to know more. Like, what exactly are you looking to accomplish, right? Before I jump the gun and say, here's my website and go ahead and book a call with me. I don't know what they want. Do I want to waste my time and booking on someone who is a maybe yes? No. I want people who will actually jump on the call and it's an absolutely yes. Okay. I'm busy. My schedule is busy, so I don't have time to take a maybe yes. Okay. It's usually a yes or it's a no, right? There's no in between. All right, so visibility is not a sheer number. So you got to get that mindset out. You can help everybody. So who do you want to help and who do you want to pitch? If there's 100 podcasts who they all talking about mindset, which podcast do you want to be on and which specific topic would you be able to speak on? And you see this a lot because there's a lot of kind of like a bait question. You see a lot of these social media bait questions, right? If I give you 10 minutes, what can you talk about within 10 minutes? If I give you 30 minutes, what would you like to talk about in 30 minutes? And you see all these comments. If you actually do a stalking, just for fun, right? You go and stalk these comments, you'll see a lot of people jumping in. Oh, I can talk about mindset. I can talk about life coach. I can talk about, how to create that work-life balance. And they keep it very general. And I've seen this so many times. And I can talk about personal development. What about personal development? Like, can you be a little more specific on that? Right? So when you pitch in the way that it's general, then people is going to go to the one who can specifically tell me what is it that they want to speak on. If I'm going to go in there and I can talk about business, there's a dozen other coaches who can talk about business. But if I were to go in there and I'm talking specifically about overcoming adversity, I can talk about storytelling. Then you narrow down to something that people actually want to hear. Right? So you have a higher chance and higher rate of landing on something if you be very intentional about who you're putting yourself in front of and really getting to know their audience. Who are you speaking with? So that you have a better chance of converting their listeners to actually want to follow you and download your freebie and actually convert them into paying clients. I mean, you're going around doing all these podcast guesting for no reason if you just throwing spaghettis on the wall, right? So you got to be more intentional, do your research, and knowing that visibility is not something that you just by sheer number. Just doing it a lot doesn't mean that you're doing it right. Oh, actually, that should be taken down as a t-shirt. Mimi is gonna tell me, Michelle, that's another t-shirt. Yeah, doing it by sheer number doesn't mean that you're doing it right. Just get that down on a t-shirt. All right, the third mistake that I see a lot of coaches are making is that you're missing to highlight the unique story that you can offer. And this is so true for so many pitches that I have received. People are pitching for personal development. People are pitching for resiliency, but people are not specific enough to tell me exactly why they qualify to speak on this topic. It's just become like it's really diluted with all the stuff that they're writing. So I'll share a perfect pitch story with you. So actually, Yvonne, she was in the group earlier. We connected. She's actually a guest on my podcast. I think it was last year that we did an episode. And the reason why we connected is because one of her friends had written me an email. It was one of those pitch email. But I absolutely adore and love that pitch email. Why? because it was very personal. It did not sound like, hey, Michelle, you have a podcast and I would like to speak on your podcast, and the reason being A, B, and C. It was a personal story, and it was written in the most genuine, authentic way, presenting her story. So she has really a great story. Her family, she came from a family of the KKK family, and growing up, she had a lot of struggle. There was a lot of family trauma behind her story, and the person who had helped her pitch told that story in the most genuine and authentic way. It was one paragraph, and I might have it, so I'll put it up if I have it. It was a one paragraph summarize her story, and that was it. She's an author. She wrote a book, from white sheet to what's her book title? Yvonne, when you have a chance, can you drop the title of your book here? I will also look for it. It was a white sheet to white baby, something like that. So she had the storyline in that email, and it was just simple like that. And he goes, would you be open to invite her to your podcast? I'm like, I was sitting there, I'm reading that email. I was feeling it. I was like totally emotionally connected to her story, even though without meeting her in person. So it was a great story. I wanted it to share. I needed to bring her onto the podcast. So I reached out, I invited her. And I was originally going to invite both of them to my show because it was just a well thought out and written email from an author's friend who is just trying to look for a platform to tell her story. And so to me, that is the perfect pitch. And you learn this, right? You learn this because I personally have pitched also my story to other places to be featured, to be on podcasts, to be, speaking engagement. And that's exactly what I do. I share a little quick snippet of my story or summary of my story and what makes me qualified to speak on the topic of adversity. What did I overcome? How did I overcome it? Those are the things that your journalist would be looking for. These are the things that your television video producers would be looking for. Do you have a unique story that you can position yourself to be that spokesperson, right? And I bet $100 or maybe 10, $100 that you have a story to highlight in your life. Otherwise, you probably won't be a coach today, right? There's dozens of other career that you wanted to do that you can do to make the same amount of money, if not more. The reason why you became a coach, because you were inspired through your own personal trials and tribulations. There's something that was going on inside of you that prompt you wanting to look for more answers in life. And that is a beautiful story to highlight. So if you are missing to highlight your unique story, then you're missing the mark. You're not hitting the right notes. You don't have the perfect pitch. And so those are the three most common mistakes that I see coaches are making when it comes to hitting and singing that right note. Either you're doing it for the sheer number, so you're jumping on every single invite that you can see out there, and without having a really intentional designation or a call to action, you're just spending a lot of time going out there and being on the podcast, but it brings you very little return. And if I would bet to look at all your podcasts, previous show that you've been on, it's probably all over the place, right? It doesn't really speak to a particular theme, or it doesn't speak to a particular topic that you're really positioning yourself as the expert on. If that's the case, then starting today, stand back and just be more intentional, right? Be more intentional about who you're helping with what. And when you pitch, that rule still applies. don't just jump on every single post of I need a guest for the career coaching. What about career coaching? Right? What about life coaching? And what about mindset coaching? Like, you don't just jump on every single one just for the sheer number of it. You become more specific on the topic that you want to talk about. Let's say you're focusing on imposter syndrome. Then just focus on the podcast where you can speak on the imposter syndrome. You can't speak on every podcast. You're just speaking on the imposter syndrome because that's where your expertise is. All right. If you the other thing is you have to do research, right? That's so important. I have very low tolerance for people who actually do lazy research. Like, you don't even have to like dig very deep about the other person. You don't have to like dig out everything about that person, but at least check out their profile or look at their audience, look at their follower, look at the stuff that they're posting. Just do that before you jump into their DM and say, hey, I have this great program I want to offer you. And that's what's sending people off. You're not seeing the melody, you're seeing annoying. Actually, that's another t-shirt, by the way. So do your research. And the last thing would be to position your story, tell your unique story. You have a story to tell, so tell that. And if you need help to depict, and this is where I really shine, right? You have so many different stories and so many things that's going on. You probably don't have any idea of how to put them all together in a very cohesive way. How I work with my clients is we start with the about page, and you just tell me your story. And from your story, we pick out like what are some of the values that you have, and from there we create storylines, right? And so everything is based on the value-based theme that the moment that you stand out to the crowd, you're going to be able to speak on imposter syndrome. Well, what does imposter syndrome do? How do I overcome it? And what does that get me? You have more fun, you feel more fulfilled, right? Those are the things that you're going to help your client to achieve. And those are the specific things that you're going to be able to talk about in your coaching business. And every time you pitch to someone, instead of hitting the note, you're actually singing the melody. So that is pretty much summarize the 3 mistakes of why you're doing it wrong and why you're not getting what you want when you pitch. It's because you're singing the wrong note. So in order to make it a perfect pitch, 3 things to avoid. Okay. Number 1 is always do your research. Number 2 is don't do it for the sheer number. Your visibility is not about sheer number. It's not the volume. Okay. You can have 1,000 followers, 2,000 followers, 3,000 followers. But if you are just doing it by sheer number, you're going to get a lot of no's before you hear the yeses. So my approach is to get you 100 yeses rather than 1,000 no's. That makes sense, right? You don't want to hear no. Like, that's pretty discouraging. Every time you go onto a discovery call, no, or you don't hear them, like they ghost you. That's what I used to get when I first started. I used to have those discovery calls, and I work hard. I mean, I don't joke, and I work hard, and I'm actually giving them like the good, valuable 1-hour discovery call. But all I hear is no, or they ghost you. Yeah. They ghost you, they disappear, right? You want more high quality and better leads where every time you do a discovery call, it's a yes. It's like, okay, so send me the invoice, send me the contract, we're done, right? That's so much easier than just spending your time running around and trying to do everything and like feeling that coach burned out. And the third one is make sure when you pitch, you're actually highlighting your story. How does that fit into that person's podcast or the blog or anything that that person wants to accomplish or achieve? You got to speak to that unique, awesome sauce of yours inside you, the story that you tell. Okay. All right. So hopefully this helps. We don't have a guest for this week because I actually need some time to catch up. And starting next week, I have a new hour for the live coffee talk show. Instead of 11 o'clock Pacific time, it has a new time. So the new live coffee talk show would actually be at 9 o'clock. Okay, so every Wednesday at 9 o'clock, join me in this group, and I will be bringing you a guest. And this is part of my podcast episode. On my podcast, I bring guests to talk about their inspirational story and also talk about their business journey of how they got where they are today. So, all right. So hopefully you enjoyed it. And by the way, if you need more ideas to post on your social media so you can be more intentional, more helpful, and actually keep yourself stay organized and consistent, then there is a 5-day social media planner, or I call it the operating guide. It basically lay out all 5 different topics of social media theme that you can post. So there's total of 100 inspirational ideas that you can use and rotate throughout your whole entire month of content planning. And this way you actually have something to talk about, right? Hopefully something that is really specific around your niche that you can speak on, you can talk about. And if you need help, let me know. You know where to find me. Okay, bye.